Welcome to Season 2 of Producer Points. My name is Justin Gammella, and I'll be your host. I'm a producer and songwriter who's had the honor of working with some of the best in the industry. This season, we're diving even deeper into one-on-one conversations with producers, mixers, songwriters, and artists, exploring their unique journeys, creative process, and insights that shape great music. Join me for real talks, straight from the studio, where music and life intersect. This is Producer Points. Today on Producer Points, we're thrilled to sit down with an artist, songwriter, and producer who's redefined modern pop with his infectious melodies and creative soundscapes. In 2022, he produced one of TikTok's biggest anthems and a global smash hit, Nicky Youre and his Sunroof, a song that still dominates playlists everywhere. Beyond his viral success, he's collaborated with artists like Role Model, Maude Latour, Tanerelle, Carter Ryan, Quinn XCII, Dubs, and many more, consistently delivering tracks with unexpected twists and textures. From jaw-dropping guitar tones to drums that make you wonder, how'd he do that? His work is as innovative as it is unforgettable. Let's dive into the creative universe of Dazy. Dude, thank you for being here, man.
I love it. Thank you, man. Thank you.
It's nice to shower people with compliments.
I'll take it. I've never had quite an intro like that, so I love it, man.
It's good. We need to I want to do that anytime I have a session, just like to get everyone pumped. Just read off really nice things about them.
Honestly, if you walk into a session and you don't even say anything, you just open the door and you do one of those, the session has to go amazing.
Has to go well, right?
There's no way, there's no way it goes poor.
Yeah, maybe I should do that. Just learn about everyone I work with and just read something to them and just then be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Feel great.
Write a little speech, just gas people up. And I mean, how could you not feel good after that?
I know,
and
right?
You're like, all right, let's write a banger.
I always wonder if any which is obviously it's not true, but it'd be funny if any of these producers had that recording of me saying it and they just listen to it as their hype song.
Yeah.
Every day.
Hey.
I would. Why not?
Yeah.
It's good. It's good to hear nice things about yourself. Self-love, it's really fucking important.
It really is.
Yeah. Especially in this industry where we have to deal with a lot of people telling us they don't like what we're doing. It's really great. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've been a fan from afar for quite some time. We've just started working together.
Yes.
We worked together twice now, hopefully more in the future. But dude, I love everything you've been doing. I got to obviously do a deeper dive into your production here and listen to pretty much all the songs that you've released. And I'm just I knew you were great, but I'm so impressed with how the mixes are always really great. Guitar tones, like I mentioned, you're doing some of the coolest things, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But we always start the podcast with your musical journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did you get started?
Way back, man, I've been messing around in Ableton for forever.
Right.
I think I first got it when I was 13.
How old are you now?
I'm 26.
Okay.
And I think, I keep all my project files in literally one giant folder. And
you haven't run out of room yet on a hard drive?
Not yet.
That's crazy.
Not yet. Every few years I'll upgrade, and get a few more, another terabyte or something because I need it. But yeah, I got Ableton around, 13. And I think at that time I was really, really into hard dubstep. I wanted to be like Skrillex, Deadmau5, Daft Punk, I was so interested in how they made those sounds because
I'm still interested and I have no idea what they're doing.
Which is why they're so goated because it's nobody's been able to really replicate some of that stuff even today. And I'd always, played guitar growing up and had the odd piano lesson and stuff. Did I was a band kid. I was an orchestra kid. Played violin.
Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Austin,
Right.
Austin, Texas, and just kind of my parents put me into orchestra and band growing up, and I did a lot of choir. I was in one of those a cappella groups, and we would travel around and around the state of Texas and kind of do sing the national anthem and stuff, which is fun. But yeah, around age 13, I got, because I kind of just Googled what does Deadmau5 use to make music, because I was so interested in how these guys were making those sounds, and it just didn't make any sense to me because I'd only known acoustic instruments like that.
Well, really, before you go on to that, I'm curious. 13's young. I feel for Skrillex. and like deadmau5, like how'd you get introduced to them?
I think it's just the internet,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, I definitely am like very much like an internet like kid, you know? Like I just feel like I'm like an older Gen Z, and
Right.
I feel like people my age were kind of like some of the first to like really like be exposed to like the internet at like a really young age.
Right.
You know, like people had, you know, like iTouches, or like, you know, they were on their like mom's laptops.
We almost never grew up in a world without YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is such a huge thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, for sure. And it's definitely like been such an influence, and it's, you know, of course now it's like everything. And yeah, I think, I don't know, I just probably just discovered them through YouTube or something. Yeah, I don't know, you know.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like
no, it's
they've kind of always been there. It seems
I feel like it was always like older bros that really loved.
Mhm.
You know, like maybe because I'm, you know, a little bit older than you are. That was my perception of it. But okay, so you're listening to them, playing guitar. You're in high school. What's going on from there?
Just started, you know, trying to make dubstep, and it was, you know, it was very much like, you know, an LFO sine wave, like it's for like a long time, and I loved it, and it was so fun, and it was so interesting to like learn about how to make a synth, what is a bass, like what is a sub, like why does my kick sound really bad. I still think that.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like, that's me every day.
Away.
Why does my kick sound like shit?
Yeah, no, it's like it's kind of actually never gone away.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, oh well, but yeah, just doing that and slowly kind of progressing over the years, and you know, it was a lot of dubstep, and then, you know, I found Flume, and it was a lot of future bass, and just diving into that whole world. I became such a like sound design kind of guy. I wanted to be like, you know, a producer DJ.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the whole thing, and try to collaborate with like people and from my high school and you know, make songs with them. And I literally would like try to find the best like singers in my high school choir and like be like, hey, like you want to work on a song? Yeah. And you know, sometimes it was cool, most of the times it wasn't, but it was fun.
Yeah.
And that was kind of all I really cared about at the time. And around that time I started putting stuff out on SoundCloud, and it was very, very electronic, very EDM, a lot of just like, you know, super saw, you know, like kind of stuff, and very like hard hitting drums. And I think honestly it was a great start to have as a producer, because it taught me a lot about trying to make things sound polished and, you know, making things sound really crispy, because I feel like that style of music was very much about, you know, having things be like very, very sharp. And
I mean, Skrillex, you know, just talking about him, it's like all of his stuff sounds so immaculate.
Yeah.
And it's mixed, and he's mixing and mastering all of it. And that's what I've learned too. It's like you, and I know you work with MIDI Jones a lot. Like I feel like guys who like kind of came up making that kind of music, where it's like you guys just like have a different way of like sound designing and making things that I'm from the band world.
Right.
I don't think like that, and I can't make. And that's why I like working with people like you guys, because it's just like I get so inspired, like seeing how you do things, and like it's like I have no idea how you made that sound, and I could never make it. You know, it's just it's something I just really, really admire that you guys are able to do. So putting music up on SoundCloud, this is still high school age?
Yeah, it's still high school, and I made some things that I really liked, and, you know, started just like sending them out to, you know, like these YouTube channels like Mr. Suicide Sheep and Cloud Kid and stuff like that. You know, like people who actually would accept like submissions on their website, you know?
For some of our younger listeners, like those were, you know, like this is like 8-10 years ago at this point. Like some of like the bigger tastemakers for that kind of music. Where like I used to write a lot of EDM, and it was like if your song got on Mr. Suicide Sheep or some of these other YouTube channels, it was a big deal, and it could like really make your song blow up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. They had power.
Yeah.
And, you know, for someone that didn't have any audience at all whatsoever, like that was really like tantalizing.
Yeah.
And like really like, oh, like there's an opportunity here to like have my little song like, you know, be heard, you know. And so I would just do that like all the time. I would just make songs and spam, you know, basically these guys, and I, you know, would have these like spreadsheets of just like emails of, you know, all these like channels if I could find them. You know, a lot of them just had their email and like their
They
or whatever.
wanted the submissions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them did. A lot of them like didn't make it super clear, but you could still like kind of find their email, just like show up like, hey, here's my song, just, listen to it if you want. But yeah, that was kind of how I got my start. I ended up getting a song on Suicide Sheep, and it wasn't like the main channel. I think it was like
one of like the sub ones.
It was like one of the sub ones, but I remember like being in class and like getting that email on my phone and being like, oh my God, like I've made it. Like this is like my life's changed forever, and I was, but it was super exciting. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And yeah, it got posted on one of those like, channels, and it was a song I'd done literally with someone I met in choir. And it like did kind of okay, but that was like kind of all I needed to be like,
this is like the first step. This shows that it could be a real thing.
For sure. I was like, this is my life now. Like I'm going to drop everything, and it was great. And then I just kind of kept doing that, and I would, do, just send out a ton of stuff.
Right.
And then I went to college, and I went to a Loyola Marymount, which is, a school near the airport. And I went for like audio engineering because I was like, well, I want to be in LA, and audio engineering is like kind of like music, right? Like it's not music, there's an element of that. So I was like, yeah, like I'll do that, like that seems like the right thing. And came out and was just doing classes and kind of was just doing the same thing. I was just trying to make songs, trying to DMing people, and just being like, hey, like let's work, ended up doing, a few more remixes and a few more songs that, and this is all on SoundCloud.
Right.
I ended up kind of doing sort of well on SoundCloud, and I was like, okay, well, things are kind of starting to work a little bit, like I'm not like making money. I'm not making a living. Like I can't drop out of school, but I feel like I, could do this. Like it seems like some people are actually enjoying like the music that I'm making, So I was like, okay, well, yeah, this is great. And then kind of fast forward a little bit, like it's getting the end of college, and I'm sort of now being like, well, I'm not doing music at a high enough level to where I can just like make it my full-time thing.
Right.
So I was kind of starting to explore other options, and I got to make money, and I can't just like be out here and, not, be making money. And I was just like, okay, well, shit, like what do I do? And I graduated in 2020. My initial plan with my audio engineering degree from LMU was like I was going to be like, a runner at a studio, and then maybe work up to like an assistant.
Right.
And then maybe
go
be
that route.
A mixer. Yeah, because it just seemed like a more feasible thing to do. And I graduated in 2020, and a lot of the studios were just closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason. And I was like, well, shit, now what? Like, I'm out here, my degree isn't really helping me. The studios are closed. There's like no work. Music, I'm not like making enough from it to like make it a full-time thing. So I was like, well, I kind of don't really know what to do. So I moved into a house with a bunch of other producers that I knew.
And this was in LA?
This was in LA.
Cool.
Kind of near like Koreatown.
Yeah.
And it was actually really great because we were all sort of in the same boat, and we were all around the same age, and we were all like, we want to make music happen. We're just going to make this like a creative musical like house.
Yeah.
And we're just all gonna, do Uber Eats
right.
all day, like drive and deliver food all day because it's kind of a flexible job.
Yes.
And then at night we're gonna make music. And like that was kind of like the life for a while.
I mean, dude, that's the advice I give anyone, whether you want to be a songwriter, producer, engineer, mixer, whatever. I always tell people, if you want to come out to LA, do exactly what you did. Go in a house full of other people who want to do it, and you're all like you're going through the same thing, so that's always amazing. But you're also there to like inspire one another and like help each other out. And Ahmad Royal was on this podcast. He had a very similar thing where he was talking about, I'd be working on a track and a buddy would walk by and like be like, hey, like what if you did this? And it's like, and I think that's like the magic of living in a house like that.
Yeah.
And it's like sick that you got to do that.
Totally. I mean, it was really, really great. And not even in the sense of like, collaboration, which is cool, because we would all like chop it up about like music and like, collab on stuff sometimes, but it also just like support wise, because we were literally all like,
you're all struggling.
Yeah, we're all like struggling. We're all like broke, and we're just like, at least we got at least we're like kind of doing the same thing.
Here's a question for you that I feel like maybe someone who's thinking about to LA is coming out here. How did you meet those fellas?
How did I meet them? I think it was a session,
You just had a session with them.
I had a manager at the time,
Okay.
and I think he may have set that one up, and they were just really cool, and we like clicked in the session, and we actually ended up like releasing a song together.
Oh, sick.
And then I think we all just happened to be like looking for places to live at the same time, and I think we just kind of hit each other up, and we're like, hey, like, want to live together? Like, let's do it. But yeah, so that was kind of the journey, and then around that time is when I met Nicky, and we can get into that story. But yeah, that was kind of the
crazy. And then obviously once Sunroof, blew the walls off everything. Now you're in LA. Now you have your own place.
Yeah.
Which I was just at. Great little studio. Well, not little. It's bigger than my studio. So, but it's a great spot. I love it.
Thank you.
I love your studio, man. Dude, I love that story. I think it's, like I said, I think that's like I just love hearing stories about people just doing the thing. I think that's the best advice I can give any producer or songwriter, where it's like, if you want to do it, you just have to do it. And you can't, grumble and be like, well, I don't know anyone. It's like everyone knew no one at some point.
Yeah, totally.
And so just like putting it up on SoundCloud, now it's probably more TikTok, where you can just like throw your beats up on there and have people hear it. And like, there's so many different ways to do it. And again, the thing I've said on this podcast a ton is just like, don't be afraid to DM people. Like, people check their messages. I'm doing it now for the podcast, where so many people on this season are people who I've never met before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just hitting them up and seeing if they want to come on, and like, people read their messages and they want to do things. And I'm constantly surprised by like that. And listen, I read my messages too. If like someone sends me a song, I'm going to listen to it. Yeah. And like, if it's sick, I'm going to reach back out.
Oh, it's like, what do you have to lose, really?
Right.
And if you're new to LA and you've come all the way out here, and you've left whatever, life you kind of had wherever you were, and you're out here, like, you might as well, like, it can be scary, know, and it's like, oh, well, I don't know them, like, why would they, respond to me? It's like, well, you never know. And
people are afraid to be, I don't know if the word's cringe or just like come off as that, where it's like, I don't want to be seen as like needy. And it's like, you're not being seen as needy. You're just being seen as like taking a shot.
Yeah. No,
it's a very different thing. And like, I think most people respect it.
Yeah.
And just because like someone doesn't answer you doesn't mean that. It just means like they weren't maybe into it, or maybe like they just like, I say this on the podcast too a lot, where it's like, I never want to reach back out to someone who like sent me a song that I don't like and be like, I don't like this, buddy.
Right.
Like, what's the point of that? It's like, all right, I'll just like ignore it, or just be like, cool, see what happens. But I want to move on to the next subject here. And I want to talk about kind of your workflow.
Mm-hmm.
You're an Ableton guy still.
Yes.
We love Ableton.
Love Ableton.
I want to talk about kind of your techniques for getting records out quick and in the sessioning world. Like, how do you tend to do work-wise, where it's like you're in a session, you're producing it out? How quick do you usually like to get records back to people?
ASAP.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's something that I had to learn, I think, over the course of a couple years now.
Yeah.
Because I never worked like that before, really.
Yeah.
I was always like the kind of dude to like, meditate on the sound of the snare for like a long time, because like just had to be perfect, And I think a lot of that comes from like the electronic stuff, I think, just trying like EQing the,
But when it's insular and you're like mostly working by yourself, you're able to do that.
100%. Yeah. There isn't really much of an external pressure, The only pressure is the pressure you put on yourself to like put something out. So I would always, try to like really like meticulously get things very perfect, and like it had to be absolutely the right, everything had to be the right thing,
right?
And I think my philosophy on it has changed a good amount since then. I don't think everything has to be like the right thing, because I don't think the right thing necessarily exists,
right?
And I think it's
just the thing you choose.
It's the thing you choose,
yeah.
And I think the right thing, obviously it can depend on, it can like depend on person to person. Like it's, everyone has a different opinion on what that could be.
Yeah. I think my biggest example of that, because I've been obsessed with him, is McGee. And just like being like, you would have shown me that when I was a lot more pompous, like 10 years ago. And I would have been like, this sounds like shit. Like, what is this guy doing? And now I listen to it, I'm like, oh, he's making a choice here.
Yeah.
He can make things sound quote unquote good.
Yeah.
But like he's like doing this on purpose, and like that's kind of like those like things where it's like he's just choosing to do a thing that's different, and that it's to his taste.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, I've just been so inspired by that album and his records the past couple months.
Yeah. I think that's something that honestly can be applied to a lot of producers.
Yes.
And I used to think that, you know, like my idols, like Skrillex, like I was like, oh my God, like absolutely nobody can do what he does because he just, and to an extent, I still think that, you know, he has techniques that like, you know, can kind of only do, but I think for the most part, and I only think this because I've worked with so many producers now who are just so good. I'm like, these guys can like do anything.
Right.
You know, like a lot of these guys can make anything that they can think of. It really just comes down to like what they like and like their taste, you know, and it's like, oh, like there's a whole world out there. You know?
But yeah, I want to talk about your workflow in the sense of like, what's a typical day for Dazy?
Yeah.
You know? What's like from writing session to getting the bounce out? What's that workflow like for you?
I think it's kind of constantly changing, and it's certainly changed a lot over the last 2 years. Like I said, I used to be very like, gotta make everything perfect. But now it's sort of like, I think I want to make it as good as I can without making people like really wait forever, you know? And like, I'm perfectly okay with, you know, having a bounce take a little longer to make it like as good as it can be. And I try to get most bounces to a point where it's like, oh, like this is great. Like this is awesome. And I don't want to take too much liberty sometimes, you know, with a song and then send it to someone and then they're like, oh, I don't like all these things. I kind of want to get it to a point where they're going to be like, I like this, like, let me give you some feedback and like, let's like work it out a little bit more to like really take it to the next level. I'd say like on a day to day though, I'm trying to get like better at piano these days just because I feel like it's such a good skill to have.
Yeah.
So I've been taking like a little jazz course online, you know, so I try to do like, you know, 30 minutes of that a day, you know, not like a crazy amount, just like enough. And then usually for about an hour before the session, like say the session starts at 1, I'll probably start this around like 12. I try to like start ideas, you know, especially if it's like for an artist, you know, and it's not really like you know, like this is like the idea that I'm going to present to them and that's going to be like what it is for the day. It's more like I'll just have like kind of like a chord progression in my back pocket, you know, and maybe like a B section, you know. I found that to be really, really helpful. Yeah. You know, to like kind of be able to rely on that and more as like a backup than anything, you know.
So you run out of ideas and you're like, well, I got this.
Yeah.
You know,
and oftentimes it's like that's the thing that like we end up going with, you know, and it's kind of cool. And I'll kind of try to like tailor that idea to like, you know, whoever I'm in with for the day. It doesn't necessarily have to be like chords. It could just be like, oh, like I chopped up this sample and I think it could be cool for you. Like, what do you think? So yeah, I try to do that and then, you know, do the session. And after the session, you know, try to take a little break. And then I usually try to like listen to like what we've done in the session afterwards. You know, have a little moment of time to like not listen to the song because ear fatigue is so real. It's so real, man. And then try to listen to it again. What I really like to do is make a bounce, put it into Dropbox, and then like go on a walk and then just listen to it. Because I feel like when you're not looking at Ableton or whatever DAW, and you know, if you're not looking at it and you're listening to it, it makes a world of difference. I literally think you hear the song differently when you're looking at the screen versus when you're not.
I like that because my most trusted source are my AirPod Pros. And it's because it's like I never mix on them. I'm only ever like listening to music and podcasts, but music on them. So because it's like I'm only listening to music, I have it's such a strong reference point for me where it's like I know how a bass should feel, I know how a kick should feel, I know how a snare should feel. Yeah. And when I bounce a song out and then I go, you know, inside my house and listen to it on AirPods, immediately I'm like, I know all my problem areas. Yeah. Whereas opposed in here, it's just like I'm in here, ear fatigue is such a real thing. Yeah. I actually, which is annoying, it's like I actually don't listen to too much music in this room. Which is a bad habit. But I just like, I love my AirPods so much. And so it's like, you know, I lose so much perspective on it. But I think that's right. You know, speaking of, you know, trying to get things to go more quickly, do you have a pretty decent like template in Ableton to like help you get there faster?
No.
Oh, so you got nothing.
It's pretty blank.
Crazy.
I have some, things in a template that I like in my start fresh
Right.
Ableton template, but for the most part it's one audio track and one MIDI track. And then I have a bunch of like utilities on the master that are like, the things like coloring the tracks the right way, or like, you press this hotkey and it gets you, a certain plugin or whatever.
Right.
I have a lot of those. Other than that, it's kind of just fresh. And I kind of like it that way.
Yeah.
I try not to, use the same stuff too much. I find that I'm very easily like predisposed to using the same tools over and over again because like I know they sound good, and I definitely try to make an effort to like really break out and try new stuff. And I'm always asking other people like,
what you got?
Yeah, like what are you using? Because like I've been using the same piano sound for like a couple months now. Like what
You know what's funny though about even piano sound? I've been using Keyscape for like almost 8 years, and I never want to get off it.
Right.
This is just what I like, and it always sounds good. Even within a template, it's funny because like I work like that as well, because I say this on every single podcast, but at least like I started in Ableton and I finished in Pro Tools. My Ableton template is like pretty empty. I just have like the only things I have ready for there is like a drum rack so I can like quickly put samples in it because I like to play in drums, and like I just have like Omnisphere and a couple other like things just like there, so I can just like get it faster. But then my Pro Tools template is like stacked, where it's like cool, I can just plug things in here, do a couple things, and like get that day. I really hate day of bounces. I almost never do them, but at least like I'll say like day 2 bounces like quickly. But speaking of bounces, and if you feel comfortable talking about this, how do you usually like to approach mix bus? Like how heavy do you like to go on it, if at all?
I almost do like nothing in terms of. I mean, a lot of times in Ableton, I'll group stuff, and I'll do processing, especially if it's drums.
Right.
I'll do like a drum bus, and at most it'll be like an EQ, and then maybe like some like compression to just kind of like glue some stuff together.
Yeah.
But in terms of like putting stuff on the mix bus, I don't do a ton, and lately I've been doing less and less. I used to have like a big chain, with like 18 things on it, and it was like, this is the one, like this will make everything sound better. Right. Not true,
Sometimes like the danger of Ableton, the fact that like there's no limit to plugins you can put on it, and it's like I get annoyed about it at Pro Tools sometimes, but it's like, do I need more than 10 plugins on any given thing? Probably not. Probably not. And like, especially mix bus, it's like, do I need more than 10 plugins on a mix bus? Like, really?
Yeah.
No. So yeah, like sometimes those limitations are actually like good.
Yeah. Well, I find more and more that I just use less plugins and stuff in general. And I used to stress so hard about, finding the perfect EQ curve and, getting the compression like just right. And now I'm like, well, I can just do that, or I can just, select a good sample that just sounds good.
Get it right from the start.
Yeah, and I think that's way more important. I genuinely think sample selection is like the most important thing. In terms of getting like good sonics.
Yes.
It just is.
I'm always asking because like I'm obsessed, because drums in my opinion is like my weakest point in production, and so I'm always like asking people like, what are you doing? And when I'm learning on this podcast, everyone's like, I have a kick I like. Yeah. I use that, and I don't really do much to it. It's like, all right, it's just having good taste and picking your samples,
totally,
correctly, quote unquote, from the start.
Yeah, and something else I like to do a lot is kind of have like a library of, especially for drums, is have a library of like kind of grooves of just like very basic drums that in like a variety of kind of styles that I really like, that always kind of sound good. And I think a really good pack for that is the Jake Reed drums.
Yeah, the Jake Reed drums are always so good.
Always so good. I use them all the time. And I use them a lot of times as like a bass for, other drums. And so I'll like, drag in like a groove from one of those packs that I think is really, really good. And then I'll just, layer a ton of drums on top of that in the same groove. you know, and then, you know, obviously customize it however I need. And then a lot of the times I won't even use the original
You'll
loop.
just kind of take it out. And
Yeah.
So when you say groove, for some of our listeners who maybe don't use Ableton, you're extracting the groove, you're saying, or you just kind of like...
No, like literally like the drum sample itself, I just like the pattern of it, you know,
Right.
not literally like the Ableton grooves. I know that's like a whole other thing. I actually don't use those, but just like, you know, the feel of the drums and, you know, that's just kind of like one of the things I love doing with drums.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying like how do you then go about like layering on top of that? Like just using
literally
your eye?
Yeah. Well, I'll just kind of like, you know, have the sample at the top, you know, and then, oh, the snare goes here, like layer in, you know, something on top of that. Oh, the kick's there, you know, layer in that, you know, oh, the hats, you know, kind of do that, you know, and just kind of like do it manually.
Yeah.
And then that allows you a lot of flexibility too, because, you know, if you follow like the original loop closely enough, you know, you'll get some nuance, you know, and you'll get some
you want that feel. That's what you want from like following like, you know, human played loops like that.
Totally. And you can mess with velocity and you can mess with the volumes of samples and get them sounding like kind of natural, you know? And then the benefit is like you've now created like your own kit that sounds great and you can customize it any way you want. And you can, you know, if you decide to change your mind about, you know, some of the patterns of some of the snares or whatever, like you can do that, you know? And it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't have the patience to do that, but what I do is like, that's a lie. I do have the patience to do it. Ableton and both Pro Tools have gotten really good at just like being able to drag a drum loop and just like extracting MIDI from it.
Oh my God. I love it.
It's gotten so good at it. And it's like, you know, it's not always perfect. You still have to like tweak it a little bit where like it thinks like the end of the kick is like, it sees a transient at the end of it. It's like, oh, this is a lighter kick. It's like, nope, it's just the end of it. But it's gotten so good to the point where it's just like, because that's what I like to do too. I don't use the extract groove from Pro Tools. I'm from Ableton too much, but I do the MIDI. It's the same thing. It's like there's so many drums where it's like I love the feel, but I'm like, this is not the right.
Yeah.
You on the Heat drums at all? Ooh, yeah. I'll show you those later. They're like incredible samples made by another guest, Eric Palmquist. He was like part of the engineering process, and they are like some of the best sounding, best like grooved drums I've ever heard.
Oh, please.
And they're like kind of like my other go-to besides like the Jake Reed stuff and some of the Circle and the Cult stuff that I really, really love.
Oh yeah, Circle.
Yeah, Circle makes really, really great grooves. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about guitars. Because like I mentioned, you always, you know, like I said, like I listened to a lot of your discography again, and the tones and the choices you do into guitars are always super unique. So what's kind of your approach to that, and like how do you like to go about recording electric guitar?
It's kind of been the same for a long time, I think. In terms of electric guitar, I've been using a Fender Strat that, you know, I just think it's like the goated guitar, you know, like I like it because you can kind of make it sound like anything. Yeah. Like if you process it enough, like you can make it sound like a lot of things. Yeah. But I've basically been using the same starter Ableton chain for my guitars for like literally like 8 years, you know, like forever. And I use it as a starting point. And it's like Brainworks Rock Rack. Love it. It's like an EQ. I think it's a CLA 2A. And maybe like some OTT, I think. And for some reason it just works, you know, and it's a great starting point. And then, you know, if I want, you know, some distortion, I'll throw Decapitator, or I'll change the Rock Rack to be, you know, a different amp or something. I've
literally never used Rock Rack in my life.
You know, it's like, I feel like it's kind of like a random one to use. And I only used it, I think, originally because I got, you know, like a Plugin Alliance, like subscription.
Right. And it was there.
And it was super cheap. It was like $8 a month. And they've since discontinued that subscription, but they like let me.
Yeah. They grandfathered you in.
Yeah. Which is great. And I can never, and like all of my projects use so much of their stuff now. And so I can just never, they've got me for life. Yep. But I used it because it was just like in there.
Right.
And I was like, trying out stuff, and I was like, oh, I'll try this one, you know, and I loved it, and it just sounded great, and I was like, oh, cool, I'm just gonna like use this for everything now.
Yeah, it's unsurprising. Like I've never like used a BrainWorks plugin and been like, nah, not good. They're always good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't like prefer them over other things, but they're always good. So it just, I gotta check it out. I've never used that one.
I'm a fan. You know, it's simple. It's just like, it's got a clean, it's got a distortion, it's got like a sort of distortion, it's got like a heavy metal, and that's it, you know, and it's like, cool, like, let's go.
And I notice a lot too, and maybe I'm curious what you're using, but like I feel like a lot of the times when you're doing more like clean guitars, it sounds like they're going through some kind of like tape warble or like kind of, you know, they kind of sound messed up. What do you like to use for that kind of thing?
I use Sketch Cassette.
We love Sketch Cassette. That's my
That's
favorite.
That's it, honestly. That's pretty much it. I mean, I use that, and if it's a chorus effect, I use like the stock Ableton one a lot. I think it's just great. It's always been everything I need it to be. I've been using the like Tal Chorus X.
That thing is so good.
I've been using that a little more recently. It's there's something about it. I love it.
It's the most accurate of like the Juno choruses in my opinion. The only thing it's missing is a mix knob. That's it. But otherwise I love it.
Yeah.
The Arturia one has a mix knob on it, which I really like. Like their version of it. So it's good, but it doesn't sound quite as good, which is sad.
The Tal just sounds great, man. Yeah. But yeah, for the kind of vibrato sort of thing, Sketch Cassette, you know, and I love that plugin so much. I use it all the time.
Do you lean more on Sketch Cassette 1 or 2?
1. Yeah. Actually, I'm trying to think of the version I have that I use. I honestly don't know. It might be 2.
2 has like 8 different tapes, and 1 has like
I
4.
use 2 then. Okay, I use 2.
Yeah.
And it's just great, you know. Like I think the what is it, like there's like a slow sort of warble, and then there's like a
the flutter.
Yeah.
The flutter.
I use like the short one a lot for the guitars, and just to give it that like kind of thing, and the ability to also be able to, you know, kind of degrade the sound a little bit, I think adds a lot to like kind of like, you know,
it just makes it vibey.
It makes it vibey, you know. It's got like a OTT kind of sounding thing on the side there, like in the bottom right. There's like, you can flick.
Oh, like that compression thing.
It's like a compression. You can flick it, and it sounds like OTT.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, I like that too.
That works. Yeah.
I just think it's such a good plugin, and it looks cool, which I love.
I mean, I love Aberrant DSP. Like I buy all their plugins, even if I don't like it that much, just because I want to support that company. Yeah. They released a new one, Layer. That's pretty cool. It's
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, it's like a weird reverb. It's like, it's so weird that like you really can use it like 1 out of every 50 times you open it up.
Sure.
But again, I like that company. I want to support them. I want them to make a Sketch Cassette 3. You know, I'll buy it. I love it. The other thing, sticking on guitars really quick, is I noticed when I was at your spot that, did you have one of those Neural DSP quad cortexes?
Yes.
How are you liking that?
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. I don't use it as much as I kind of thought I would. The main reason I got it was because I wanted to be able to quickly switch between different types of presets, you know, as opposed to, and to save on, you know, processing power a little bit, you know, because like those guitar chains can add up. They add up, you know, and I layer a ton of guitars, you know, and, you know, at some point the computer starts to protest, you know. I don't use it as much as I thought I would, but I think that's mainly due to me not having really set it up properly. You know, I have like a few sounds on there that I really like, but I'm trying to get into the habit of using it more, you know, so that I can, you know, really quickly switch between stuff and also save on some power. Yeah, I have over there I have my Kemper, and it's like, it took me a minute to like really start using it, but now it's like same thing. I just want to be able to be like, this is the sound, and it's in. Yeah. And I can just like quickly layer and just like put a bunch of ideas down. And you like it? I love the Kemper. I'm really considering, because I've used the Quad Cortex a couple times, and it's like, I think it actually sounds better than the Kemper. But I mean, I can't complain about the Kemper. And I've actually invested a decent amount, and like I've bought a bunch of tones for it, or what's called IRs and stuff for it. Yeah. So it's like, I'm invested in it already. I'm just like, God damn it. But I love it. I love it. I use it all the damn time. And then I do use my real amp a good amount, but obviously not in sessions. So, you know, that's what the Kemper's for. It's mostly just be like, cool, this is good enough, and we'll just either stick with it or I'll re-record it. Yeah. Hey gang, I just wanted to pop in here to let you know that the best way you can help this podcast grow is to rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts. It tells the algorithm to push our show to other listeners so we can grow. And it's one of, if not the best way to help support this podcast. So if you wouldn't mind, take a second to rate this podcast.
sharing it with your friends would be amazing too. All right, back to the pod. I want to move on to the next part of our podcast here, which is the song deep dives. First song we're going to talk about is yours and Nicky Youre's Sunroof. That's so weird. Sunroof. You're Nicky Youre Sunroof. Sunroof. But I'm dying to hear the story. I've never asked you or Nicky, like, what's the story behind the track? How did it all come together?
Totally. So yeah, we were talking earlier, I was like just post figure shit out, and it was like my, DMing, like, let's work, and we met, I'm pretty sure on Instagram. And I don't remember like the exact details, but we met like through Instagram, and I think it was just one of those like, yo, dude, like
what's up?
What's up? Like, let's build, like, let's make a song. And we just started sending stuff to each other. He had one song out at the time called Sex and Lemonade.
Yeah. And
I heard that and like, this is dope. Like, this is sick. Like, this guy has a great voice.
Yeah,
like,
dude, such a good voice.
It's voices that it's when you hear it, it's like a unique voice too, which is awesome. But yeah, I heard that song and I was like, this is sick. Like, this guy's dope. And also just the vibe of that song in general, it was very like summery and really like, it was just fun, and I was like, I want to make music kind of like that too, and I had sort of been transitioning from, electronic into pop stuff at the time. Right. And it wasn't something that I was very confident that I just sort of fell into.
Right.
And so, yeah, we met and just, this is all over the internet, right, by the way, just through text, and we would just send stuff to each other, right, and he would acapella things and little like beat ideas, and we like made a couple things, and, they were like kind of cool. And then one day he sent me an acapella, and it was literally just like a voice memo off the phone, of like what's now the chorus of Sunroof. And it was literally just acapella. Like, I'm pretty sure he recorded it like in his dorm, right, at college. And I was like, this is cool. Like, this is dope, like, let me try some chords over this, and did like, I actually went back and looked at like the original like version 1 the other day, and I sent him the first version at like 1:30 a.m. or that's when I had bounced it at least. So it was just like middle of the night like type thing, and I literally just some chords, some like very basic drums, lined up his voice as best as I could, auto-tuned it a little bit, and was just like, yeah, what do you think of that? And he was like, that's pretty cool, like, you want to like finish it? And I was, yeah, like, let's do it. And so over the course of like kind of a long time, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We would like text each other back and forth and just be like, yo, I added this thing. What do you think? Like, yo, I added this thing, I added like, oh, what do you think of these guitars, and it just sort of slowly started to kind of come together. Kung was like pretty cool, and we were like, there's something about this, like, we really like, let's like see it done. And over time, it just started to get more and more kind of built out, and more polished. And there was a point I remember where we were like, I think he drove up, because we were gonna like record some vocal stuff, and we were like, this song is cool, but like the vocals just like really aren't hitting the right way. Like, what do we do? How do we make this song like really just feel much better? And we ended up changing the key like up 5 half steps.
Oh, damn.
Like, pretty drastic change.
Yeah. Sometimes songs need that though.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, like, this is dope. Like, this immediately the song sounded so much better. Like, it was night and day.
Just like quick side tangent too. That's like advice I give everyone. It's like, before you cut the vocal, like, take the 3 minutes it takes just to like mess with the key of the song.
Yeah. And that took us months to like figure out.
I do it almost every time where I'm like, let's try it up a couple, let's try it down a couple, and like see like what it does to the energy.
Yeah.
because like sometimes it's like that where it's like, oh, now the song has such new life. But that's crazy. So you brought it up 5 and
we were like,
did
this
the
sounds
vocal.
so much better.
Yeah.
And I didn't like have the right like equipment at the time to like properly record him. So he got, you know, his friend Aiden Rodriguez.
Yeah, I know Aiden. Yeah.
To record, and he crushed it, you
Yeah.
know, and the vocals sound so good. So shout out him.
Yeah.
And we basically just kind of kept, you know, texting back and forth. And I think we maybe in total got in like once or twice to like kind of smooth out some stuff.
Yeah.
But eventually the song was just kind of like done, you know, ish. And we were like, this is pretty cool, you know, like I think it's good, you know, we think.
Right.
I don't think at any point we were like, this is a smash.
Right.
Like, I think we were like, this song feels really cool, you know, and like that's kind of it, you know. And then and by the way, like he wrote like all of it.
Right.
You know, all the lyrics, like absolute, you know, I think in terms of like melody and lyrics, like he's just so good at that.
Yeah.
And it was such a, you know, it's such a gift, you know, it's like so, you know.
There's nothing better as a producer when it's like, oh, I have this amazing top line. Great.
Yeah.
Like,
and it was like, I just could feel that it was great, you know, and I was like, yeah, like he crushed that. Like, that's awesome, you know, and then it was just a matter of like getting the production right. And, you know, like I said, it was a lot of just texting back and forth, like, ooh, can you change like this little thing? You know, change this little thing. In terms of the production itself, the song is like very talking about guitar layers.
Yeah. It's
So many.
one of my questions. So that's
glad you bring it up. So many layers, man.
Yeah.
I ended up. I mean, if you go in there and look at that file, it's like there's got to be like 24 like guitar layers. Like,
wow.
Like not even kidding. And I don't even know if like all of them are really like doing all that much.
Right.
But it was like I felt like they were at the time, you know. And it was a lot of me playing the same chord progression over and over in like just slightly different ways.
Yeah.
Until it just kind of sounded right. So there's like, you know, there's like me playing the progression with like literally no effects. There's me playing the percussion with like literally some like heavy metal kind of thing, but it's like so tucked in there, you know.
I mean, it sounds like one guitar.
It does,
which is
and
crazy.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of like in a big group.
Yeah.
And it's been like kind of crushed together, you know, probably with some OTT and like some CLA2A. And the idea was to kind of just to get it to sound like a really just fat like wall of a guitar, you know, and yeah. So it was a lot of that, and it's like using that same chain I mentioned earlier, you know, the same like chain I've been using forever. And yeah, you know, and the little guitar solo in the song, sketch cassette.
We love it.
You know,
sketch cassette.
It's the same guitar just with sketch cassette on it.
Is that your mix that was released?
No, we got it mixed. I mean, I did like a rough mix, but we got it mixed, and we were like super happy with it.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it
like,
sounds great. You know, it's just like yours because like I know like Nicky was like when he released it, was he an independent when it was released at first?
We released it through 30 Knots, which
right.
is his management's like independent label, and then. And they totally crushed it, by the way. They did clearly. So much. They did so much for the song initially. And then when it started to blow up, we upstreamed it to Columbia.
Okay. Nice.
But yeah.
It's crazy. And then, you know, because I don't even remember like when was the moment that you guys were like, oh, damn, this song might just change our lives?
I don't know. It was kind of I don't know if there was like a singular moment.
Right.
I think maybe it was when it like very first got released that we were like, oh, like something's happening. Because he started posting TikToks.
Right.
And they started gaining traction. And they were very much like, you know, like 10 songs that, you know, are like cool for the summer, you know, but he would have our song playing in the back. And then people would kind of be like, yo, like, what's this song? And he would be like, it's our song. Like, it's my song. Like, pre-save it, you know?
What's up?
So we were able to get a lot of pre-saves that way.
Right.
And all those pre-saves allowed us to get on New Music Friday. And I think that was really what kicked it off. And so when it got on New Music Friday, that's, I think, when we were like, ooh, like, cool.
Right.
Like, that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Like, wow. But it was sort of like a slowish build.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was just like...
No, it wasn't like out of nowhere. It was like, and then all of a sudden it was everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And that was, the whole process was obviously very exciting, but also very like scary, you know, in a lot of ways. Like, kind of don't know what to do, and, you know, but, you know, very grateful for it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, absolutely crazy. It's such like a, obviously now when you hear it, it's obvious. It's like, oh, this is such an obvious smash of a song. And honestly, you know, like, the top line is amazing, but I do think it's that guitar riff in there that is just so recognizable that also makes the track like as iconic as it is. So to give you some credit,
thank you,
as well. I mean, it's just like you hear that guitar tone and immediately you're like, oh, it's the song.
Yeah,
it's just undeniable. You know, one of the questions I had about it that you already answered was like all the layering of the guitars, but one of the other coolest parts of that record is how active the bass line is.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it.
One, is that a real bass, and two, like, what's your approach to that kind of like melodic kind of bass lines?
It's the Native Instruments Rickenbacker.
We love it.
I think it's the Tweedman preset.
Yeah.
I may be wrong about that, but it's one of the presets.
Yeah.
And in terms of like writing that bass line, I don't know.
do you like to play it in, or do you like, you're just like drawing it in?
Well, it's funny. Like, normally I'm always like reaching for the actual bass and like playing it, just because I love it, and I think, you know, a lot of time you get the best result that way. Yeah. For some reason, I just use that one and I played it in on MIDI, so it's completely a MIDI bass, and, you know, it just that tone. I mean, I think that bass is one of the best bass plugins ever. It like always sounds pretty good. I'm
always using that one, or the Trillion by Spectrasonics.
Trillion is great. I'm new to Trillion as of late, but it's great. Yeah,
Trillion is like, there's like the 60s bass preset that I love, and then there's like another one that I forget what it is, but like it's famous for like the Charlie Puth, the tension. Yeah, it's like that's the bass line he used it on Trillion.
Okay. Yeah, especially for like upright, and like cello-y sounding kind of basses. Really, it's great for that.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to move on to the next record here, Maude the Tours, No Rush. I love Maude. I've been a big fan of hers ever since she's been releasing stuff. This is one of her cooler records, in my opinion, and I think it's mostly her vocals are always really, really cool. But I think you especially like nailed it. But we're gonna talk about that in a second. I want to talk about just a little bit how'd you guys get together and what that write was like.
It was just me and her. It was just like a session set up, you know. And she, I think, was living in, I believe, New York at the time, and was just like visiting on a writing trip. And yeah, I don't know. She came over to my apartment, and I mean, she's just so cool. Like, she's just like so chill and so nice, you know. And it was, you know, I feel like I could definitely tell it was just like, yeah, we're gonna make some cool, you know, fun stuff. And I'm trying to, I don't know, remember the details, but I think it was just kind of like one of those things where, you know, I started with like maybe some drums and the bass. It's like boom, 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 and just kind of did that. And she just kind of started writing, you know. And
I've never worked with her. She's one of those people where it's just like, she just sits there and the song just flows out of her.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
She seems like that. That's why I was curious.
And it's not just like, you know, she like just wrote a song and it was just there. It was like, it's very like unique and like creative sounding, like the way she does her vocals. Yeah, you know. And also I recalled that like she knows like what she wants, which is so amazing.
That's the best characteristic of an artist that you want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
When they know what they want, it makes our jobs so much easier.
Yeah. And we did, one session where we made that song, and I think we, made another one, and then we did a follow-up session where, we kind of like finished it up and recorded more vocal stacks and stuff like that. But the main, core of the song was done the first day.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's one of my personal favorites. I still go back.
Yeah,
I still go back and listen to it.
It's because, like I said, like I went through your records and I was like, okay, what do I want to talk about? And like I said, like I'm a fan of her stuff already, so it was an easy one for me to pick out. But really, I mean, like I think that those are some of, if not her best sounding vocals on any record. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about the approach you had with one, recording her vocal and layering her vocal as great as you guys did. But what if you remember, like what was your outboard gear vocal chain going into the box there?
I didn't have any at the time.
Okay. Even more impressive.
It was a AKG C214.
Great mic.
One of the best, honestly. Like, I had been using that mic for so long. I think I got it like for Christmas one year.
That's around like $1,000, right? Am I?
It's about 400, I think.
Okay, so it's even cheaper. Okay, yeah. I thought it was
But I discovered that mic because I worked with a rapper in college who like lived on my floor, and I had only used an SM58 up until that point.
Also, don't knock on that mic. I tell people, like, if you can't afford an SM7 to get the SM58.
Yeah,
I think it's a great first microphone.
That thing carries.
Yeah.
But he had the AKG C214, and I was like, "What mic is this, dude? Like, it just sounds so good." And he was like, "Oh, like it's this one. You should get it." I was like, "Okay." So I like asked for it for Christmas one year. That was like my big gift. Right. And I just used that mic like ever since. I used it on Sunroof. All the acoustics on Sunroof were that, and all my acoustics for like a long time were that. The Role Model song, and so I recorded her with that,
and just like straight into the
Scarlett 2i2.
The Scarlett. Wow.
Yeah. Scarlett 2i2 is it's always there for you, in your darkest hour. It's always there, man.
I mean, her vocal. I mean, so like, whether it's just your normal approach, once you're in the box, what's kind of your approach with like compression and EQ and saturation? What do you normally like? Some tips and tricks for our listeners.
For sure. I'd say my typical vocal chain, and I'm constantly changing it. Yeah. Because
as we all are.
I'm always like, I'll talk to some like producer and he'll be like, "Oh, you got to use this one. Use this plugin, dude." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." No, but I'd say for that one in particular, and it's pretty representative of my vocal chains just in general. Ableton EQ, got a low shelf, a low cut, around, I don't know, 100 or something, just to get out some of the low
wherever
stuff.
That rumble, starts.
Yeah, cars driving by, gotta get that out of there. I almost always do a low shelf. I don't know why. I feel like maybe it comes from using that mic.
Well, it's also like people are, singing so close.
Yeah.
That's part of modern recording.
Yeah.
That people like.
Just gets rid of some of the boxiness, I mean, I won't do that every time, but yeah, low shelf. And then I kind of just leave the rest of it. And then I always use a CLA 2A, just as the compressor.
How hard do you usually like to hit that guy?
Cranking it.
I'm
cranking it. Yep, totally. It's like it's going like almost like to the end.
Crazy,
for sure.
That the CLA 2A, it's like it's definitely like a love it or hate it sound. Mm-hmm. I know people like yourself and a couple other producers who like love it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's what I've always liked about it. Maybe this is what you like about it. It kind of makes things, especially when you hit it, it warms it up in a really nice way. That's what I get from it when I've used it like that.
100%.
Yeah.
And I started using it when I didn't know a ton about like just, mixing or like anything.
It's got two knobs.
It's
amazing.
It was easy to use. And like, I found that when I turned this one knob, it sounded more like a record.
Yeah.
And I was like, word, that's all I need. So yeah, that, and then maybe like another EQ to just, you know, kind of get problem areas, you know, if there's like some tinny or some sharpness, I'll kind of like cut that. Sometimes a high shelf, you know, around like the upper bit, you know, just to get vocals sounding crispy. And then to taste, like OTT, you know, and I use a ton of OTT all the time.
Yeah. What's like your like what they call it, like depth or whatever, like the mix knob, like how far are you taking it?
It depends on like a vocal, you know, could be like 2% to like
that's all it needs.
20%. You know, it could be somewhere in there, you know, but I find that like I usually end up around, you know, like 5%.
Yeah.
You know, 10% maybe if I'm feeling
That's
crazy.
how I know like a pro producer from someone who's just starting out, where it's like if anytime you're going past, unless you're doing like crazy sound design, anytime you're going past like 30-40% on OTT, it's like you fucked up.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah. Well, at that point, it's a sound design tool.
Exactly. That's like if you're doing it on purpose, be like, ooh, I really want this to hit. But especially on like something like, you know, like a vocal, where it's like if you're going past 30-40%, it's like you've made a different mistake before.
Well, I think it's important to ask yourself what problem are you solving or trying to solve, you know, with, I mean, just a compression in general, or literally you could say that about any effect. You know, and if I'm using OTT like on a vocal, it's like, well, I probably want it to be a little brighter.
Right.
So, you know, emphasis on the little part of the little brighter, you know, so 5%, 10%, that's fine. And then I think at that time I was probably using just the Ableton Reverb, you know.
Ableton Reverb's great.
It's good. You know, it's really good. And I've also been really loving the hybrid reverb in Ableton. Yeah. The new one. Or I don't know how new it is, but
it's relatively new. Yeah, I don't use the Ableton reverbs as much just because it's like I'm usually doing reverbs in Pro Tools. But like, you know, there's a couple times I do, I'm just like, yeah, man, this is really great. I kind of wish I could like use it in Pro Tools more often.
I think as like an effect where like you're really trying to wash something out, it's really, really great. You know, I mean, honestly, it's good in a lot of ways, but I think there are better reverbs to get an element to, you know, really be part of like a world. And I think like Valhalla is really great for that.
Yeah, I mean, the Valhalla's used on, if I had to throw out a number, I would say Valhalla's used on 80% of records that are released today.
Totally.
If not higher.
Totally. They're so good.
Yeah.
You know, but you can really just get creative with like some of the Ableton stuff, especially the hybrid reverb. Yeah, there's so really many cool like IR things in there that are like, you know, spring, you know, plate, like all kinds of stuff. Love using it. It's very, very dynamic.
Are you on Audio Things Springs plugin?
No.
Oh, get that.
Audio Things Springs?
Audio Thing is like a company, and Springs is like it's like, in my opinion, it's like the best like spring reverb plugin there is, and it's like, I'm not the only person who thinks that. It's like,
I love a good spring.
It's so good.
Oh, okay.
It's like by far the best one.
I need to write that down.
Yeah, just speaking of Springs. You know, the other thing, just speaking with vocals on it for a second, for No Rush, is Maude is always layering her vocals.
Yes.
But I feel like this is one of the more loose doubles, which I love. So I know that's more her thing, but like, what was your guys' approach to like how you decided to layer and how loose those vocals were?
She, like I said earlier, she like knows what she wants, and like she had a vision, you know, and it was like I was kind of just in the back seat, like, you know, helping it happen, you know, which is fun and it's great. And
I mean, so what was the approach? Just like, sorry to cut you off, but like the approach, like, did you have like the main vocal like done and comped, and then you did like the layers, or like how does she like to go about that?
I'm trying to recall. I feel like we probably did have the main vocal like comped. I do remember the second session we did, which was the finishing session, it was like mostly focused on layers, and like very much like I think we recorded like a lot of them, and then it was a lot of us going back and her being like take out that one, like take out that one. Oh, I like this one, you know, like, you know, some of that. I don't remember too much of like the nitty-gritty details of it, But it went very much like that, where
Yeah.
she was just like,
She just knows what she
was
wants.
just like, yeah, like take those guys and turn them down, like take these guys and like turn them up, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
and then, you know, you just trust that, and then at the end it's like, oh, this sounds great. Like like hell yeah.
I think that's like a really great approach. That's how I like to do vocal layers as well, where it's like I try and when I can always do it around the comped main vocal, just so we have a good reference point.
Oh, for
But
sure.
it's like I always tell people, it's like record more than you need, because hitting mute is very easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Where if it's like, for, you know, let's say for a chorus, it's like, all right, I'm always like, let's record a harmony for the whole fucking thing. And if we only want it on certain words, we can do that.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, you're only here, especially like someone like Maude, who's like, you know, I think I don't know if she still lives in New York, but it's like in New York, and it's like not coming out to LA all the fucking time. It's like, I'd rather have it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like, I don't know when we're gonna be able to,
Right.
you know, do it again, and you know, people scheduling and stuff, and
it's like every producer just like needs to learn with vocal production, is like, get more than you need.
yeah, for sure.
Always.
And the barrier is always, oh well, we've been at this for 5 hours, you know, and like people are tired. Oh, I got a dinner. It's like, let's just do it.
Let's just do it.
Let's just do it. You know, it's like everyone's tired, but like, I would rather have all the tools available than, you know, chase people down and be like, hey, like this could be so much better. Like, let's just like get in again. You know, it's like, no, let's do it now.
I find it's easier too to like make things go faster, because like it's hard for me to record a vocal for more than like 3 or 4 hours. It's like I get burnt out, and I'm not even singing.
Right.
And like how I do it is like, one, I have my Pro Tools template like set up where it's like it makes that go faster. But on top of that, it's like I know the things that I always want to get, right? I want to get a high falsetto. I want to get a low vocal. I want to get a harmony. I want to get a low harmony. I want to get a soft vocal. I want to get a whisper. I have all the things I know I want to get.
Yeah.
And so because I know I want to get them, I just get them. I'm not like thinking on the fly, like, ooh, let's get this. So I get all the things I need first, and then I kind of let the artist be like, cool, what are some of the other things that we want to get, the more creative things that we can do? Because I find that like if you just knock out the ones that are just like you don't have to think about, it's a lot faster. And I don't know, that's just been my approach with that, and kind of like being like annoying about it, be like, let's just get all this done.
Yeah,
it'll really take 30 minutes.
Yeah,
if we just get all these things that are just so annoying to get.
Yeah. And it's great when you get in with people that are down. You know, they're like down. They're like, yeah,
let's just fucking do it. Yeah. Like, I mean, and listen, like I'm a huge vocal production guy, and it's like I love having stacks upon stacks. Like that's just like that's why I like Maude the song. It's like I love vocal layers. It's so exciting to me.
I love that one.
Another one of the things I want to talk about for this song, and maybe it's not even really the song in general, but I kind of brought it up before, was you always see, you know, so many of your productions, the bass and drums are always tight. And that's something that I love to do in productions. What you know, what do you like about that, and what's kind of your approach to like making sure the bass and the kicks and everything are always lined up?
For sure. I mean, you know, not to keep going back to like my electronic days, but I do think it's an artifact of that. You know, I think it's the kick and the bass are, you know, a lot of times married. They occupy the same frequency range, you know, and I think cutting the fat from, you know, the drums and cutting the fat from the bass so that they sound very tight and in sync with each other can do a lot.
For listeners, when you say cut in the fat, like what do you mean by that?
I mean, you know, maybe say you have a kick and the sub of the kick kind of goes like, vroom, you know, and it like tails out. Like we all have samples like that, you know, where like you really love like the first half of the sample, and then the second half of the sample is like some like weird thing going on. So, you know, cutting that out, smoothing it, fading it, you know, making it like a nice little thing. Making sure that like, you know, I mean, it's case by case, but, you know, making sure that like the kick isn't like, you know, messing with the bass, or like the other way around, you know, in terms of like making it like, you know, if they're like, if the sub of the kick and the sub of the bass are like in the exact same, you know, little frequency thing, like that can like be pretty jarring, you know, fixing that, you know.
What's your approach? Are you side chaining, or are you just taking it out of the bass completely? What do you like to do?
It depends. I think most of the time I'll probably just do a little cut, you know, on one of them, you know, whichever one is, you know, needs
for that
it.
song you want to be
Yeah.
the star. Yeah.
I think if I can't decide, I'll go to Track Spacer,
Yeah.
which is just so good. I use it all the
It's
time.
one of the plug or unplug things I'm going to ask for, which is hilarious.
Nice.
So
yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. It's like, you know, it just takes out the frequencies that, like you don't
It
want.
works.
You know, it's like, yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of that. And I think also making sure like the top end of the bass is really good, because that's really the part that like your ear pays attention to, I think. You know, the 200 and up, 300 and up kind of thing. And even like up in the like higher register of the bass, like the click, or like the, you know, if you're playing a real bass, like the scrape of the pick on the strings, you know, that's the thing that like you really pick up on and is really what gives the bass itself its character.
How do you like to approach that? Is that a EQ thing? Is that a saturation thing? How do you like to approach that?
I think it starts, you know, like most other things with the sample, or like the plugin you're using, or like the actual bass, you know, and the way you play it, you know. Right. I love playing bass with a pick. Yeah. Because it does give it like a clickiness. Yeah. You know. And maybe I don't always want that. You know, maybe I just want a subby bass. You know.
It's so funny. We had a producer and songwriter here. You know Falconry?
I know of him.
Yeah. We were just talking, because I'm like with him. He's like, I play bass with my thumb because I want that thump. And it's just like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and that's a taste difference.
Yeah, totally.
Too. But,
totally. It's just whatever you're after.
Yeah.
You know, and like sometimes you play with your fingers, sometimes you play with a chunky pick. You know, and it's like, yeah, you know.
Even it's funny. Like sometimes people don't know this. Like where you're playing the pick on the bass will drastically change it.
Totally.
Whether it's like closer to the neck or closer to the bridge.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a crazy difference.
It's something to think about.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I find that, and a lot of producers can relate, it's like you'll be playing something and you're like, why doesn't it sound right? You know? And it's like you go into, you know, whatever DAW it is, and you're like messing with EQs and you're messing with all the little buttons, and you're like, I just can't get this thing to sound right.
Yeah.
Try playing it differently.
Yeah.
You know? Try the pick like over here. Like you'd be surprised, because it starts there. It, in, you know, all the processing in the box is processing what you're playing. So try playing it a little differently. Put the pick over here, you know, play it with your thumb, or maybe do both, layer both. Like who knows, you know? We
had Petro AP on the podcast last season. And for those who didn't listen to his episode yet, he was talking about how he loved this record by Troye Sivan. I'm forgetting what it's called, but it's one with like the acoustic guitar. And he's like, I've always loved that acoustic guitar, and I set aside a day to try and figure out what it was. And he was like, I was playing it, and I was trying all these different processing things, and I could never get it. And then I finally realized that he was playing the acoustic guitar with his thumb. And then I played it with my thumb, and then that's what it was. And so to your point, it's like, yeah, sometimes it's not sometimes, it's almost always like how you're doing the thing before it goes into the computer.
For sure.
So often.
For sure. And not even like just sonically. There's a lot of times where I'm like playing something and I'm like, I just can't get it to sound right, you know? And then I'm like, it's just because I'm not that good at like whatever it is I'm playing, you know? I got to practice a little more, you know? Yeah.
I mean, also, it's like whenever I do bass too, I mean, sometimes I just know right away if I want it to be like a thumb or a finger thing. But there's a lot of times where like I'm not quite sure, and I'll do like not a full take each, but like I'll play a little bit with like a pick with my fingers and with my thumb, and like kind of listen to it really quick and be like, okay, which one like is making me feel the thing more? And that's how I'll kind of choose, where it's like I'm trying to like correct myself from like doing like 10 takes with my fingers and then being like, ah, fuck, I should have played this with a pick. You know, and just to like avoid all that.
Yeah.
Because I say it on the podcast a lot, but I love playing bass. It's like my favorite instrument to play.
It's fun.
It's so much fun.
It's fun. And when you get it to sound like great and it lines up with the chords and like, I don't know, you do some fun little, you know, additions, like it's such a good feeling.
It's so good. It's
so
like,
fun.
It's my favorite. So we're going to go on to our next and my favorite part of the podcast, where we talk about your current favorite piece of gear or plugin, something that you've been using a lot the past couple of weeks. Doesn't have to be something new. Could be an old faithful, but what have you been really going back to lately?
I know I'm like super late to the party, but I've been using a lot of Omnisphere recently, and oh my God, like I didn't know what I was missing, you know, because I mean, everyone had always, you know, told me about it, and like I'd always seen people using it, and I don't know, I just never got it. I didn't feel like I needed it for some reason. I think I thought it was like a hard synth, like Serum, but it's a sampler.
Right. Most people like don't really understand that.
I didn't either, and I was like, I don't need another Serum.
Yeah.
But I learned that it like has a bajillion samples of
like it samples like real Junos and real like Moogs and stuff.
Yeah, and not only that, like it's well, I mean, what doesn't it have? You know,
no, exactly. Yeah,
it's got all kinds of crazy things. And
have you gotten any of the like I forget what they call, but they're like expansion packs?
I haven't even I didn't even know that existed, and also I've like barely even made it through like 1/10 of the stock stuff.
Do yourself a favor and buy the expansion packs.
Okay.
Because they're like all the stuff that's in there were sounds that they made. I mean, they've updated and they've added more sounds, but now they're like doing these like I forget what they're called, but they're basically expansion packs, and they're not cheap, but they are very worth it.
Really?
They're like I swear by them. The only one that might not be worth it, they have this one that's like based around a nylon string acoustic guitar, but like also it sounds really good. And like I'll use it once a year, and I'm like, I'm really glad I have this.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Omnispheres fan.
Is it the expansion packs? Are they good because they just have so many more like new sounds?
They have so many more new sounds, and how they're doing it now, which is really really cool, is that like each sound, it's like they change how it looks in Omnisphere, where it's like you can tweak it much easier. Where it's like each new sound has like custom controls in each thing. So it's like, oh, this sound has like a delay on it, and like it'll have like a delay knob on the thing. But if the next sound doesn't have a delay on it, it won't have a delay knob.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then it's also, they call them like scenes, where it's like each sound will have like 5 different versions of the sound that you can quickly kind of scroll through.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I can't speak highly enough about it. It's like it's really.
And those are just official like.
Yeah, no, it's like on you'll see it. Like you just go to Spectrasonics and like you'll find them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're there.
I'll check that out.
They don't call it expansion. They call it something honestly stupid, but they're all so good.
Yeah.
Dude, I love to hear that. So we're gonna go on to our next and final segment, our plug or unplug segment. For anyone who's a new listener, plug or unplug is a segment where I'll give Dazy here a plugin or a piece of gear, and he's gonna hit me with plug if it's something he loves, unplug if he's not into it, and bypass or inactive if you've never used it.
Okay.
And I'll kind of talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
First one, curious if you've used this one. Outputs Thermal.
Bypass.
Yeah.
Don't think I've used it. Isn't that a saturator?
Yeah, it's a saturator. It's like a, it's something that I'm like right in between plug or unplug. I so rarely reach for it, but the couple times I do, it like transforms the sound, and I'm like, like that's cool. I reached for now a very very similar plugin that I actually like better. Arturia's, it's like Distortion Cold Fire. It's really cool. That plugin's really great. You might like it.
Really?
Yeah, it has like really extreme distortions, and like you can like make it like different like left and right, and it's a lot of fun.
Sick.
That's a good one.
Nice.
To check out. This next one, I'm curious if you use it, because I've never used this, and more and more people have been telling me about it, so maybe I'll check it out. UVI's Falcon.
Bypass.
Yeah, same. I'm curious. Maybe I'll just cut this one out, but like, I guess it's kind of like Contact, and like everyone's like, oh, it's really good. It's got like a bunch of sounds and like.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
I love sample libraries.
Yeah.
Those are like. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, so I think it's like that. Like, I've never used it, but a couple of people have told me, like, yeah, you should definitely check it out and see how it is. So I was curious if you've used it. And like me, you haven't, which is one of the few, because I usually I almost have every plugin. It's a real problem. Next plugin, Baby Audio's Crystalline Reverb.
Bypass. Haven't used it.
Yeah, another good one. I have some presets made on it. But
oh, really?
I am one of their like artists on there, so I get all their stuff.
That's sick. That's so dope.
Well, it's fine, but it's a really fun little plugin. It's like a reverb, but it's got kind of like an octaver in it and a couple other like cool features. My favorite feature on it is that the pre-delay you can set to the BPM, you can sync it.
Oh.
So it's like, for our listeners who might not know, like Reverb has pre-delay, and like that basically means like how soon after the reverb kind of comes in for the sound. And most of them are in milliseconds, and this one you can do it by like 16th or 8th or quarter.
Oh, that's really
So
interesting.
yeah, you can do some kind of like cool effects with it.
Yeah.
It's a fun little reverb for that.
Nice.
I know you use this one because you just mentioned it before. Waves Factory Track Spacer.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So are you mostly using it for bass and drums, or is there anything else you're going with?
I use it all over the place for everything.
Oh.
And the general, like, I don't know, like rule, but like I use it just for things, I mean, what it's made for, like things that compete with each other.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's vocals and, a synth that kind of is, or they're in the same spot, or vocals and a guitar, bass and drums, obviously. And, yeah, I mean, you can even use it as like an effect, like a kind of a sidechain thing, really cool, if you really want. What I love about it is that you can do the low cut, high.
Right, you have a little bit more control on it.
Yeah. You can be like, oh, I only want the low frequencies to like be cut out. Yeah. Like that's awesome.
What makes you choose that over a Soothe or a Pro MB or something?
Soothe, latency.
Fair.
And I don't know what it is about Soothe. I've never been able to like, maybe I'm just bad at it. I don't know. I've never been able to like get it like exactly like how I want it.
I feel like you're like me. I feel like you're like a man who likes a simple plugin.
I do, man.
And simple gear.
Give me 2 knobs and some vibes and like a cool interface and like we'll get
That's
there.
all I want. Like Soothe borderline has too much stuff for me. Yeah. But like I can understand what it does, but then there's like most plugins I'm just like I just want to I want it to basically be a guitar pedal. Just make it dumb.
I just think in general being able to do things quickly, for me at least, it's so important because I want to get the idea out as fast as I can so that I can move on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And I just think like my personal creative process works that way, and it's like I want it to sound good fast. That's why I love making chains. I love making racks in Ableton. And I love simple plugins.
Yeah, you love it. This next one, I noticed you had one in your studio, so I wanted to ask about it. And it's funny that you use the plugin version of it a lot, but Universal Audio's LA2A, the real one.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like it?
It's cool. It's cool. I've switched to the Tube Tech.
Okay, nice. Do you still have your LA2A? Or you got rid of
do. I think I'm probably gonna sell it.
Okay.
I liked it. I just didn't think it was versatile enough for like everybody to use, and I sort of feel like the Tube Tech is that way.
Yeah.
Not saying the LA2A is bad at all. It's like it's goated. Like it sounds so good. I just felt that sometimes it like wasn't the right thing for the artist in the room.
I mean, the Tube Tech you have like a little bit more versatility with it, where you could like change how the attack and everything is like happening on it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I felt that the LA2A, it has like a sound, whereas the Tube Tech could, but it also can not have a sound.
The Tube Tech is very transparent when it wants to be.
Yeah. And I actually really like that. Yeah. And I think it provides a much cleaner like starting point and palette for you to like build upon later in the box.
See, it's so funny. That's why it's like, and it's not like it's not that I have a dislike of the Tube Tech, but it's like it's why when I'm using an outboard piece of gear, I want it to color. So it's like why I love my 1176. Yeah, and it's like that colors it.
Yeah,
and it's like so I tend to like the outboard pieces of gear that I'm buying. I'm like, no, I want it to color the thing.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll just go right in. But I love Tube Techs.
Yeah,
it always sounds good.
Yeah,
it's like I don't do too much R&B stuff or like rap stuff, but if I was doing more of that, I would buy a Tube Tech because that's what it sounds really great on.
Yeah,
I'm doing more like indie stuff and like pop stuff, and I feel like you can get away with having a little bit more texture in the vocal.
Yeah, like we used a Tube Tech with Tanerelle.
Yeah,
on
which makes sense.
Yeah. So good.
All right, this next plugin, which I'm sure you know because you're a listener of the podcast, we ask on every podcast. CLA vocals.
I used to use it a lot, not as much recently, just because I think I found like a chain that kind of works for me, I use CLA bass.
CLA bass is great.
I use it all the time.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
There's so many people who it's like, I think like you get producers where, you know, like the CLA gets the stink for whatever reason, which I think is totally undeserved. But, and then like, I'll like start mixing a bass in the room with like other producers in there and I'll put CLA bass on. They're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I'm like, CLA bass, man, it sounds good.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
You know?
And
I think in the right context, the vocal one can be too.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
It can just get that sound really quickly, which is, you know, like I said, it's one of the things I love about, you know, plugins is when they can just do it like really quick and you're like, cool. Nice.
Whenever I'm usually never recording on an SM7, but when I'll get vocals recorded on an SM7, that's usually when I'm like, okay, this needs CLA vocals. Like I need to like hype that guy up a little bit and have it do the thing. All right, next plugin, again for our listeners, is the last plugin is usually a very widely used plugin that most people should use. We'll see if that's the case with you. Soundtoys Radiator.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I use it actually quite a bit on drum bus.
Dude,
it's
amazing on drum bus.
Yes, sir. I think I use the little one.
Yeah, little
maybe.
Radiator.
Actually, no. I think I use the regular one more often. Yeah, it's great, man. It's great, and it's based off of that outboard. What is the Alltech?
That Alltech one. That's on my buy list. I want to get one eventually. That preamp.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen one like.
They're super rare because you know mostly made in the '60s. And stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so good. It just throwing it on a drum bus, it gives like a little crunch. You know, you can get a little. You can turn up the bass a little bit. I don't know. It just always, it very rarely doesn't sound good.
Yeah. Before I had all my out gear for my vocal chain, like Radiator was on almost every vocal I did.
Oh.
Just like giving it that like preamp push that I wasn't getting because I was going straight into my Apollo. And I mean, I'll still sometimes use it when like I want like a little bit more out of a vocal. I have like a little preset that I made years ago that is basically Soundtoys effect rack like preset that it's Radiator and Decapitator. And it's just like basically I'm pushing them a ton and then but I have like the effect racks mix rack at like it starts at 2%. And then I just kind of like bring it into taste to like give it that like little bit of a, you know, saturation crunch, whatever you want to call it on a vocal. That was my go-to for so long. I love any kind of saturator or distortion. I like doing the thing. I love when it has a mix knob because I like to push it a shit ton and then lightly bring up the mix.
Oh,
that's kind of my approach to like saturation a lot of the time because I want to like feel all the new harmonics that it's adding, but I just want to control it. A little bit. Dude, as I say in every podcast, I've taken up far too much of your time, but it's always true. This has been such an amazing episode. I've learned so much from you, and I'm such a fan. Before we wrap, is there anything? Well, actually, you know what? I've been doing this lately too, which I didn't do last season. Is there any advice that you want to give any aspiring producers or artists that maybe you wish you would have gotten when you were first starting out?
I think, and this is kind of something that we talked about at the very beginning. Like, be okay with being annoying and reaching out to people. Yeah. Seriously, you know, like we've all done it. And I do think like, you know, the loudest voice often, you know, gets hurt. Yeah. It's okay if somebody doesn't respond to your DM. It's okay if, you know, but just try. Yeah. You know, you really don't have anything to lose. Reach out to, you know, a producer that you like, a songwriter that you like, you know, an industry person. Just do it. You know, whatever the worst they can say is no. That's amazing. That's amazing advice. That's the thing too. My old bandmate had the same kind of philosophy. He was just like, just ask for things. Yeah. The worst they say is no. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. You know, you're not asking people for $1 million. Yeah.
I mean, you could, but that'd be a little crazy.
Don't be surprised if they say no.
Yeah, they'll probably say no, but hey, you'll get
Maybe
the one.
they'll give you $1 million.
Right, you'll get the one nut that'll be like, oh, thank God you asked me.
No,
but dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Before we wrap, is there anything, any projects or something that you want to plug before we wrap here?
I don't think so.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
We love it. Well, dude, thank you again. Thanks
for
to our
having me.
listeners, and take care, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Producer Points. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and share with fellow music enthusiasts. For an encore, check out our Spotify playlist featuring all the songs we've discussed on the show, giving you the perfect soundtrack to your creative journey. Additional audio and video editing for this episode was done by Nathan Rebello. Until next time, this is Justin Gammella.